Today, we're diving into something pretty profound, the karma of silence. We're going to explore those moments when we choose not to act, and why that very choice, well, it might just be one of the most consequential things we ever do.
So let's start with a question, and be honest with yourself. Have you ever been in that situation, at work, with family, with friends, where you knew something wasn't right, your gut was screaming at you to say something, but you just didn't? Yeah, we've all been there. But here's the thing we're going to unpack in this explainer. What if that silence wasn't neutral at all? What if, in a weird way, your silence becomes a form of action, a form of participation with its own powerful karmic weight? Okay, let's get into it. To really get a grip on the seriousness of silence, we're going to turn to an ancient source of wisdom, the Bhagavad Gita. It makes this incredibly important distinction about what it means to not act. So this is where it gets really fascinating. The Gita gives us two different ideas here. On one side, you've got Akarma. Think of this as wise inaction. It's a conscious, disciplined choice to hold back for the right reasons. But then on the other side, you have Akartavya. This is totally different. This is a failure of duty. It's that silence you choose when you know you should be speaking up. And that second one, Akartavya, that's what we're really focusing on. And look, the Gita itself is super clear that this stuff is tricky. It says the path of action is subtle, it's hard to figure out. The point is, just being passive isn't automatically the wisest choice. And that, right there, is the key. So let's just boil it all down to one crucial point. When your silence helps an unjust or harmful situation continue, it stops being that wise restraint, that akarma. It crosses a line and becomes akartavya, a genuine failure of your duty to act. All right, this all sounds a bit philosophical, right? So how does it actually show up in our day-to-day lives? Well, let's look at a case study that is unfortunately incredibly common: the family system. This is where these dynamics can get really, really intense. So let's paint a picture that I think a lot of you will recognize. You've got a family, and there's one person, often a woman, who's shouldering a lot of the responsibility, who finally decides enough is enough. She speaks up about reckless spending or maybe a destructive habit that's just draining the family's future. She's trying to set a simple boundary. And what happens next is this toxic, predictable dance. Step one, she raises a totally valid concern. But watch what happens. Immediately, in step two, her concern gets twisted and relabeled as negativity or causing drama. Step three, the blame flips. It's not about the bad behavior anymore, it's about her for bringing it up. And in the final awful step, the whole system, often enabled by the silence of others, punishes her for trying to save them all from a crash. And here's the most twisted part of it all. The one person who is actually trying to hold everything together, she gets blamed for refusing to keep paying for its destruction. Think about that. She's not being difficult, she's simply refusing to co-sign a disaster that she can see coming a mile away. And just look at the language they use to twist reality. Her genuine exhaustion from carrying everyone? Oh, that's just her being negative. Her deep concern for the family's well-being? No, that's a control issue. And her healthy boundaries, the very things needed for survival, that gets labeled as a lack of loyalty. And the silent family members, by not speaking up, they give these lies all the power they need. Now, don't think for a second this is just about families. Oh no, this exact same pattern of silent participation unfolds all the time in our professional lives. Think about that company culture where cutting corners becomes efficiency, and people burning out is just seen as the hustle. Your silence, our silence, becomes the very scaffolding that holds up that entire harmful structure. And how do we justify staying quiet? Oh, we have a whole playbook for that, don't we? It's just how the industry works. Hey, that's above my pay grade. What's the point? Nothing will change anyway. And the big one, I've got to protect my career. They all sound so reasonable, but every single one is a quiet vote for things to stay just as broken as they are. So this begs the question, if the fallout is so obviously bad, why on earth do we choose silence so often? The answer, of course, is all about the short-term payoff. Let's be real, speaking up is risky. It's uncomfortable, it can put you on the outs with the group. Silence, on the other hand, feels like a shield. It feels safe, it keeps you in the tribe and lets you kick that can of confrontation just a little further down the road. But that safety is a complete illusion. And this is where we get to a really powerful idea, collective karma. Now, listen closely here, because this is crucial. This does not mean that everyone who stayed silent is just as guilty as the person who caused the main problem. What it does mean is that everyone shares in the consequences when the system finally, inevitably falls apart. Your silence ties you to the outcome, whether you like it or not.
So, where does this leave us? It all comes down to a call for discernment. We have to learn to tell the difference between the kind of silence that actually preserves peace and the kind of silence that just preserves a slow, painful decay.
I want you to really let this next idea sink in. Most broken systems don't fall apart because of a few supervillains. No, they fall apart because of the quiet, passive permission given by all the good people who just stood by and watched.
Because when the whole thing does come crashing down, the universe or karma or whatever you want to call it, it doesn't just point its finger at the most obvious bad guy.
It looks around at everyone else who was there, everyone who knew better, everyone who could have said something. And it asks a much more chilling question. Who allowed this to happen? And that is the question I want to leave you with. The next time you find yourself in that situation, in your family, at your job, in your community, and you realize that the broken system is counting on your silence to survive, what are you going to choose? Because your answer, your action or inaction, has far more power than you could ever imagine.